Hi everybody, today is Sunday, March the 22nd, and it's a quiet few minutes in the shop, and I wanted to take this chance to thank all of you for all of your encouragement and your support. Of course, over the last 3 years, but also this last week in particular. I spoke to so many of you on the phone and, read messages and emails and notes on the videos that were just so encouraging. And I just want to personally thank you for all the love that you've shown this shop. It means a lot to us all here, and we just really appreciate you for taking the time to do that. So thank you for that. And thank you for all the orders, of course. We're working hard to get all that stuff shipped out to you. So we appreciate you so much for that, for letting us know that you're gonna support us. And even though we're online only right now, that we're important to you. We appreciate that, and we hope that you know how important you are to us. And so on that note, there's a really sweet little sampler that's been hanging in the shop for a couple of years, and a good friend of mine had asked me to reproduce it, and it was always our plan to do it. And so we did that some months ago, and we've had the chart ready, and it's just been kind of hanging out waiting for me to write the verbiage for it, because there's always a little intro that I try to write. And a friend who wanted to stitch it for Easter asked me about it again. And so I was going to email it to her. And I decided that now was really the perfect time to put this sampler out there to the public. But I wanted to change what we had planned for it. With everything that's going on in the world right now, it's just been weighing really heavy on my heart. I have many friends in places that have been heavily impacted by this virus already, not to mention the friends and family that I have here in the U.S. I, in my prior career, traveled internationally a lot and lived overseas a few times. And so, I have friends in Korea, I have friends in Italy, I have friends in the UK, and a number of other places. And it's just really hurt my heart to know the struggles that they faced in the last few weeks and month, and to also know what's coming here in the U.S. and is already here in many places, and friends that are impacted by this virus already. And so this particular sampler was stitched by a young girl named Elisabeth Cooper when she was 9 years old, and it has a verse on it. I want to show it to you. I'm dying to show it to you. It has a verse on it up at the top that's a little bit light and hard to read, but it talks about her faith, which she calls religion. But I think if you were to recognize that word in today's vernacular, it would be more akin to what we use the word faith for. But at the bottom, it says Jesus wept. And so when we've talked about this sampler here in the shop, we call it Jesus Wept. And it is spelled a little differently. It's Weept. And so you'll note that when you look for it on our website, it's Wept. I wanted to try to keep it simple. But if you're not familiar with the story from which this verse is drawn, it's actually a Bible verse from John. You are going to have that opportunity if you want to download this chart and stitch it. So we have charted it over one, which is how it was originally stitched. All the interior motifs were stitched over one, and the border was stitched over two. And so we've charted it, we've reproduced it that way. And then for those of you who might be in my camp who really don't want to stitch everything over one, we also charted it over two. And that means we kept the border over two because it was already over two, and just made it bigger so that it would fit. But we kept the style intact. So you've got an original reproduction out there, and then you've got an adaptation because we changed it to be over two. The chart is already available for you as a free download. If you look up Elisabeth Cooper with an S, Elisabeth Cooper, or you look up Jesus Wept, Wept, on our website, it'll pop right up for you, and you can download that. There's no charge to it whatsoever. And it's a beautiful booklet. And I do want to thank Allie, my friend Allie, who works with us here, who's actually in Virginia working, because I finally sat down and wrote the verbiage for it last night and asked her if she could in any way get it ready for us so that we could put it out there for you today. And she dropped everything and got it put together, and then had to drive into town to get an internet signal to get it uploaded and back to us. So, Allie, I appreciate you for doing that. Thank you. And for you guys, now is the time to do it because of the story behind Jesus wept. So, Jesus had a good friend named Lazarus, and Lazarus had two sisters, Mary and Martha, and they were all friends of Jesus in his time. And Lazarus was very sick, and Lazarus died. And Jesus went to be with Mary and Martha. And when he was confronted by their grief, he was overwhelmed with grief as well. And of course, he grieved for his friend Lazarus anyway, but he knew that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. So his grief, I believe, was not so much for the death of his friend Lazarus as it was for the grief of his friends. And so when I think of this verse, Jesus wept, I really think of it in terms of how much Jesus loved his friends, Mary and Martha. And of course, he loved Lazarus because he did ultimately raise him from the dead. But he was overcome with grief when he was with Mary and Martha and observed their grief over their brother Lazarus. And so this verse means a lot to me because it always brings to mind friendship and the depth of friendship and how much love there is meant to be in friendship. And, you know, the comfort of knowing that in the Christian faith and my God, and you may have your own faith, but hopefully you have that model in your own faith too, that Jesus understood our grief and he understands our pain and our suffering, and he wept with us, with his friends. And so this sampler is released to you at this time free of charge, and it's out there as a downloadable PDF. You can find it on our website. You'll be able to find it on our front page of our website soon. And you can download it and you can stitch the whole thing. You can stitch it over one, you can stitch it over two, or you can do what I'll probably be doing with my little bits of free time is I'm going to pull some of the motifs out of it and stitch those to be made into little gifts for some of my friends. So I can make it into a pen disc, I could make it into a needle book, I can make it into a scissor fob, but there's lots of little bitty motifs that won't take very long, and you should have enough fabric and thread in your stash that you could do this, and hopefully it will bring you some comfort as you stitch these things with your friends in mind, thinking of their well-being as we are all kind of sequestered at home right now. And the other thing I wanted to do with this is to make sure that you knew that you were not alone, and that in this great big huge stitching community that you're very much cared for. Even if you've never talked to us, even if we not touched in any way online, we care about you. We love you. Collectively, to be part of this community means that you're one of us and that we care about you and we want you to be well. And so don't feel like you're alone out there. And if you have a chance to join, a virtual stitch group, either online with Fiber Talk or something else, or, whatever your approach is, or you just need to call and talk to somebody, or email, just know that you're not alone out there, that this community cares about you, and that while we are all in challenging circumstances right now, there is hope for our future, and that we'll make it through this. And that on the other side of this, you'll be able to embrace your friends again. And these little gifts that you might make for them that I'm going to make for mine, you can give them a hug and give them a little gift, and they'll know that you were thinking about them. I don't know what else to say about it. It's really meaningful to me to put it out there for you. I appreciate Allie for helping me get it done. I appreciate my friend who asked me for it so many times. And I appreciate you for listening to this video and maybe taking a chance to go out there and look at it and download it and do what you will with it. We did go ahead and put some kits out there if you decide you want to stitch the whole thing. So it's charted with Avera Swad, needlepoint ink, and DMC, so you can do any of those things. The threads that I pulled today were needlepoint ink, and they're really beautiful colors. It's all very neutral. I mean, I just dropped one. I'm gonna have to pick it up. You saw the sampler, so a lot of neutrals with some little pops of color. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to show you the different threads in the linen. So this is Riverstone, and it's really hard for me to do this thing where I don't drop all the threads. But this is kind of what they look like. Really hard. This is what they look like on Riverstone. So Riverstone is a 30 count legacy linen, and if you were going to use Riverstone, that means you would be stitching over one thread. You could stitch over two, but I would, I think the original antique is probably a 28 count. And so this is what I pulled if you wanted to stitch it over one. Then there's another choice to stitch it over one, and this is Pecan Shortbread. It's also legacy linen. And I think the colors are just really beautiful on this as well. I'll see if I can get that up there for you. It's hard to do. It's really a terrible way to display that, but you'll get the picture. So this is Pecan Shortbread, and it's a little bit darker in color than the Riverstone, and it's a 30 count. And then if you want to stitch it over two, we pulled out Corn Tassel, also by Legacy Linen, which is a really pretty neutral. And there are pictures of this online, so so these are the threads on the 37 count Corn Tassel. So when you go to look at the kits online, make sure that you pick the one that you want, that you thought about whether you want to stitch it over one or over two. It's a pretty over one, a pretty reasonable smallish sampler. I won't say tiny, but definitely manageable. Over two, it gets a little bigger, of course. So think about which way you want to stitch it. If you look at the chart, you'll see that we've included the stitch size for over one and over two, and just make sure that you pick the right one before you pick your kit. Or if you're going to stitch from stash, make sure that you are looking at the right stitch count and fabric requirements for which way you're going to stitch it. And if you need, if you want to stitch it over two on the 30 count, then give us a call, and we can get that kitted for you. If you want to use a Verissois or DMCs, we can kit that up for you as well. These are the threads. So, just give us a call. We'll be in the shop tomorrow. I'm not going to try to edit this video too much because I want to get it put out there too. So you're going to see me dropping all the fabric and thread in it. That's just the way it is. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you enjoy the sampler. I think it's beautiful. I think we didn't really talk very much about the little structure in the middle, but I do think that's probably a little greenhouse. I did talk to Lorraine about it when I purchased the sampler from her. We weren't quite sure what it was, but given that it has a little door right here and it has these glass things on the roof and it looks like it has kind of a roof here, I really think it's meant to be maybe a greenhouse in a garden. So I'll let you decide what you think that is. And I hope you enjoy it. And just know that we appreciate you and we want you to be well. And go out and take a look at all of the hashtag Stitch and Be Well, I think is what it's hashtagged out there on Instagram, with lots and lots of free patterns from different designers. So we appreciate them all for doing all that for you too. And I'm going to stitch some of those. There's some really beautiful ones. Until I see you again online, and certainly until I see you again in person, please be healthy and be safe and stay home and just stitch and be well. Thanks a lot. Bye.